Count one, open murder, guilty of first-degree murder.
We carried it live here moments ago. Jeffrey Willis, guilty of first-degree murder. This is justice for Jessica Heeringa, almost exactly 5 years and 3 weeks after she was snatched from her job at a Norton Shores gas station in the middle of the night.
The young missing mother was the subject of countless searches over the years. To this day, her family still holds out hope she's alive. Thanks for joining us on West Michigan's only 7 o'clock newscast. I'm Marley Ginter.
And I'm Brian Sterling. Again, we carried that verdict for you live, and now we have team coverage moments later on the reactions. We
want to start off with 24-hour News 8's Heather Walker, who has covered this trial from start to finish. Heather?
Yeah, it was an emotional moment in the courtroom when that verdict came down. Not from the defense side. We didn't see any visible emotion from Jeffrey Willis, but from the prosecution side. I'm joined now by Lieutenant Kasher, who is the lead detective on this case and has been for the past 5 years. And when this verdict came down, I saw everyone over here get very emotional.
Well, yeah, I think there's a lot of emotion that because there was a lot of work put into this, and we were extremely happy. I think the prosecutor put on a great case, did everything right, and it's something that we felt that we knew all along, or at least since May of 2016, that Jeffrey Willis was involved, did do the abduction of Jessica Heeringa, and committed the murder. You know, you're being second guessed and you're criticized, and after a while, you want to make sure you're doing the right thing. And when this verdict came down, you felt that you did the right thing. And there's still a little that, it's not a little bit, you feel still half empty. You don't have the whole investigation done. She's still missing. And right now we're still in the process of looking for her. And you know, like I said, there was 2 goals right at the beginning back in April of 2013 that I vowed that I would continue on is 1, bring the person or persons to justice, and bring Jessica Heeringa home. And at this point in time, we've done half of it, but we haven't done probably the important half.
What were the emotions when that verdict came down? You guys are crying and hugging. What were the emotions?
Well, I wouldn't say I'm crying and hugging, but I mean,
there was lots of hugs,
there's a lot of hugs, handshakes. I think it was more of a congratulation of all the work that you put into, and you rely on other people, and everybody knew. They knew what it was, and they knew what the truth was. And I think that everybody, we wanted everybody to hear the story of Jessica Heeringa. And I said this before, for us or for me, Jessica Heeringa has a right to be heard in court. She has a voice, and we were her voice. She is a victim of a crime, a heinous crime. And so I think when the jury agreed with us, it was a victory for her.
And where does the case go from here? Continuing conversations with Jeffrey Willis? Where do things go?
If he is willing to talk with us, you know, I can't force it. But yeah, I mean, we're going to try to keep lines of communication and try to continue dealing with him. Unfortunately, I think Jeffrey Willis is the only one that knows where Jessica Heeringa is at this point. But when tips come in, we're still gonna check. It's not boxed away and shelved away and we're all done. Like I said, we're still missing Jessica Heeringa. And I think it's only fair to her, fair to her family, fair to her son, and everybody around that she's brought home.
And Jessica Heeringa's family was not present for any of the trial. What kind of effect did that have on the prosecution team?
Well, you know, I'm not going to get in specifics. I wish I understand their feelings. Jessica's not here. So, you know, you're always hoping out with more hope that, you know, she's alive. We had to make a decision charging Jeffrey Willis that we believe he did the abduction and he did the murder. So we had to believe on that, and we had to prove it. The family still doesn't believe that she's dead, which I get. You know, that's their daughter, that's their granddaughter, that's their sister, and at this point, I respect that.
Mm-hmm. And we were talking about how quickly this decision, this verdict came in. You were surprised by that?
I was surprised. I was thinking maybe tomorrow, mid-morning, maybe around noon, that, you know, it was a long day for the jury. They probably had a lot of things to go over, and I figured, okay, they're going to go home, go to sleep, get up, new day, and then deliberate. But at the end of the day, they must have found that the evidence was overwhelming and there was no other decision to be made.
All right. Anything else you want to share about today?
I just, you know, all the thanks to a lot of the people. I mean, in something like this, as you know, there is the negativity, but there is a lot of positive. I have received a lot of positive emails and letters and cards and phone calls from people, you know, from all over Michigan and in the Midwest, to keep going. And, you know, you get that, and it's that one bad day, and then you read that, and then it makes you go again. And that's what kept you going. A lot of people that had no connection to this case really thought and believed in us. We had a lot of supporters here and congratulating us and saying that we did a good job. I just a lot of thanks to a lot of people.
All right, thank you. Yeah, so 5 years after her disappearance, there is finally justice, finally a verdict, but the search continues for Jessica. Reporting live in the Muskegon County Courthouse, Heather Walker, 24-hour News 8.
Yeah, Heather, and I know you're on a little bit of a delay, but we do want to keep you for a second here. The lieutenant just mentioned the evidence, the overwhelming evidence, but all of that evidence was circumstantial. They never did find Jessica. Why do you think the prosecution going into this case, though, was so confident of getting a conviction?
Well, I think it's just because there was such a long list of circumstantial evidence. It wasn't a few things, wasn't a handful of things. It was a list of things. I mean, in my 6 o'clock report, I couldn't even list all of the things that linked, Jeffrey Willis to Jessica Heeringa with the circumstantial evidence. So I think that's really it. And you've got this pattern, you've got a VIX file, you've got the passwords that he changed to JLH 42713 the day after she disappeared. There was just a lot of things.
Yeah, the evidence was there. It was overwhelming. Again, the circumstantial evidence, and a lot of it could not be explained away in any easy manner. Exactly,
and of course the defense did have a lot of points to bring up, but not enough to sway the jury. Heather, thank you for that. And our team coverage continues now with Barton Dieters, who just spoke with the sister of Willis's other murder victim, Rebecca Bletch. Barton?
Right, as we said, as you just heard now, the Heeringa family was not in the courtroom today. They have stayed away. They have their reasons. Apparently, they're just not ready to believe that she is dead. But in the courtroom today was the family of Rebecca Bletch, the person that Jeffrey Willis killed earlier. He was just convicted of that. He's been sentenced to life in prison. He is appealing that, however. But we were able to talk to the sister of Rebecca Bletch, who has been in the courtroom throughout most of this trial. Here's what she had to say.
It's always hard to hear, to relive this over and over again. It will never go away. But I needed this closure. I think we all needed this closure. It's a Willis thing for us. You know, I know it's a Heeringa trial, but it's a Willis thing.
Do you understand the Heeringa's family decision not to come here? Is that something you can relate to? Does it make sense to you?
I understand it. I respect it. Everybody's entitled to their opinion, their thoughts, what they think is evidence, what they think is, the truth. Just like I'm allowed my opinion, my thoughts, and I believe the truth was laid out very well, and I believe he is guilty.
Now, for the defense, this was a pretty disappointing day. The verdict came back in about 90 minutes, as we saw. And for Fred Johnson, he was trying to convince this jury that not only did his client not kill Jessica Heeringa, that in fact she's probably not even dead. He had competing theories that he tried to present to the jury. One, that Jessica Heeringa overdosed. She had gotten heroin that night and ingested too much of it and died, and that whoever gave her the heroin had taken care of the body. The other was that she had just disappeared, that she was unhappy with her life, a life that included drugs and abuse, and she was overwhelmed by the responsibilities of childhood. But clearly this jury did not buy that, and here's what Fred Johnson had to say today about what happened here.
I would think there's not going to be another trial. He'll be facing 2 life sentences, and it comes to a point where the resources of the community are finite, and to try this thing a 3rd time on the other matter, I don't know if it does a whole lot of good. But Mr. Hilson will be the one to decide that. That's just my opinion.
Talked to you in the first case about you losing the jury about maybe a couple of days into it. Did you lose them about the same period?
No,
this time?
I think we were in it right up to the end. I think they waited this time to the closing, and in fact, a couple of questions they asked were about some of the arguments we made in closing. So they were still listening at that point. So no, I don't think we lost them. I think they went back, they deliberated, and they came to the conclusions that they thought was right, and that's where they are.
Have you ever had to try a case with so much circumstantial?
Never.
There wasn't
Never.
one thing, was there, for you to
No.
really have to focus on?
No, I've never had a case like this. I don't think there's been many cases like this. It was the quantity. I've had a lot. I've dealt with circumstantial evidence before, but it was just the sheer quantity of it. It just kept coming and coming and coming in, and ultimately the jurors were convinced beyond a reasonable doubt by it.
And right there at the end, Mr. Willis didn't listen to your advice as his attorney. What was that all about?
That happens. That's not unusual. That happens a lot. His life's on the line, and so it's a very stressful time for him. And you don't always agree with what your lawyer recommends, and that happens with a lot of clients, and so that's not unusual.
People will want to know why he didn't take the stand this time.
He took the stand the last time, and we didn't want to repeat a strategy that wasn't effective, clearly. So this time we didn't put him on the stand. We tried some other things. We tried to do different things, and that was the strategy we used. We thought had the best chance of success.
As a defender, is it hard to come back from getting a guilty verdict with the same client and then having to do another case and maybe even an even harder case all over again? Was that difficult for you?
No. That's what I do. If a doctor loses a patient this week, next week he's in there fighting for the next patient. It's what we do. It's what we're trained for. So this is part of the routine. It's what we do. I'll be back next week with another one.
Are you worried that this jury may have convicted Jeffrey Willis because of who he was, not because of what he did?
Ultimately, that issue is with them. Is within their conscience. They told me they didn't, and I have no reason to believe that that's not the case. I just don't know how a human being could not consider all that other stuff. He's convicted of murder. He's got all this terrible, terrible porn out there. So I don't know how a human being could not consider it. I think it's just part of what we are. But they said that they didn't. They said they based it on the facts. And
if this had been the first case, you think a different outcome if Heeringa had been first instead of Bletch?
Perhaps, and I think strategically that's probably why it was tried in that order.
What did Mr. Willis say to you after the trial?
He said, "Can I appeal this?" And I said, "Yes, you may. And in fact, you will."
There is an appeal already, right?
There's an appeal on the first on Bletch. There'll be appeal on this one as well.
The same facts, right?
Sorta, but it's a different case. That's why we didn't try them at the same time.
Now, as you heard there, Johnson believed that had this been the first trial, that maybe there would have been a different outcome here, but that's not what happened. As he said, the Bletch case is on appeal right now. He expects that this case will be appealed also using a lot of the same facts that were used in this case, in the Bletch case as well. We will continue to cover this. We'll have more for you tonight at 10 and 11. In Muskegon, Barton Dieters, 24-hour News 8.
All right, Barton, yep. The defense attorney doing his job, thought that the jury was with him right up into closing arguments.
Right.
It's an interesting assessment given all the evidence that was presented.